No, it's nice to meet you. I feel like I know you just from LinkedIn, seeing you on LinkedIn and listening to videos and other podcasts you've done. So I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, for sure, man. Congrats on launching the cast too. It looks like you're getting some good traffic, man.
Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised. I mean, it's one of those things like I've said it on each one, but I mean, it's a good excuse for me, to talk to people like you. And, um, I guess you get out what you put in. And if people want to be a part of it and engage, like you'll get something out of it, I think. I know I am, from worst case scenario, I at least get to have a good conversation with people. And if others enjoy it, hopefully they do. But
Amen to
no,
that. Amen to
yeah,
that. I just push out good, authentic content, right? That's our success story is like authenticity and ethics,
yep,
right? I feel like good things happen to good people.
yep,
Um, and that says the truth in logistics and supply chain too, right? I think we all find the common crowd of group of good guys, a good guy group that we work with. Um, there's just a lot of opportunity in
yeah.
this industry right now, for
No,
sure.
for sure. It gets kind of hit a bunch of stuff at one time there with just not having the scarcity mindset, being authentic. Obviously, we've said that in a bunch of episodes that we just haven't released yet. We've been recording a lot, and then I'm just going to put them out each week. But almost every single person talks about those same two things, and it's I'm fortunate I get to interview people who are successful, and it's nice to hear common things like that, right? Because it's not a mistake, you
Right.
know.
Right. It's not coincidence that people who do good things have good things happen to them. Right.
Yep.
And it's not coincidence. I just think that's your differentiator at this point. There's a million different truckload brokers. There's a million different warehousing asset solutions. Like there's OMSs and WMSs and TMSs. Like, how do you drown out the noise and figure out what's good for you?
Yep.
And I think that's a huge challenge right now. There's just this digital disconnect. It's like, you have a lot of conversations, but they're meaningful conversations, right? I said it on the Manifest podcast, right? It's like, you'll never take people out of this business ever, right? We're always going to want to do business with people that we like and that we feel comfortable with and we trust. But how many different conversations do you have to get to that one conversation that's solid, that's genuine, right? Thousands,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yep.
it's like a lot. So
Yeah. No, it's kind of nice. I think, and I know you'll talk through, your company and how you can work through those weeds a lot faster or eliminate them, right? So that's kind of the point of it.
we hope.
But no, I guess, that I think that'll probably end up being like the main focus. But I am curious too, like how you got into the industry. Obviously, we can look at LinkedIn and we can look at your history. Um, but we've all kind of had our own path into the logistics supply chain world. So I guess I'm curious how you made your start.
Yeah, for sure. I got drug into it by a good friend of mine. We were both working in electrical distribution wholesale. So I was selling panel boards and generators and stuff to large manufacturing groups and stuff of that nature. Um, he jumped ship, went over to logistics as a 3PL, right? I think it was about the time that third party logistics was really catching fire. There was a lot of emphasis around it. They're making lots of money in that industry. So I chose to leave my cushy corporate job and go into my first entrepreneur venture, I guess. It was a franchise based organization called Blue Grace Logistics. Started a brokerage here in Atlanta and scaled it, and it was my first real taste of transportation industry, brokerage, like grind, hustle, everything it takes to like be a successful broker. But it offered me an opportunity to see other aspects of the supply chain. So cut my teeth in brokerage, sold that franchise, started an asset-based trucking company, not 53-foot dry vans or anything. It was box trucks and sprinter vans. Saw some success, and the opportunity for PopCapacity started then.
Yep.
Right,
That was the Go Expedited.
that was Go Expedite.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. We were time critical focused, right? We weren't moving pallets across the city for $45 a pallet, right? That wasn't our MO. But
Yep.
if you needed a rack or a server going into a data center and you needed it next day, and it was in Houston, then we can make that happen for you.
Yeah.
It was the one thing that coming from a brokerage, like very transactional, very volume oriented,
Yep.
which means you make very minimal money. Sometimes you don't make any money at all. So that was not something as starting a business on my own without the backing of a franchise, right? And the structure of it. I was like, I'm not looking for the cheap rate. All right, let's
Yep.
go after this stuff that's time sensitive, that's highly valuable, and people are willing to pay a little bit more for it. So.
Yeah. So as you're going throughout that process, is that when you got kind of like a better idea for the need for something like PopCapacity?
It was. I mean, technically, Blue Grace was a digital freight brokerage. I think Convoy, Uber Freight, Coyote, some others were started picking up the term, but they were using that terminology, and it was like a digital pathway to find a carrier, which makes a ton of sense, right? If I'm in seat of procuring, freight and logistics services, do I need to talk to hundreds of different carriers every single day and ask them when they're getting there and why they didn't deliver? Probably not. But so I was going from Atlanta to Dallas, Texas on a run. Got a call from one of our existing clients, which so happened to be a large social media company, asking for warehouse space. All right. I'm on the road on my Bluetooth, driving down the road. And it's like, look, immediate response. I'm not a warehouse broker. Right. Go to Google and find a warehouse company.
Right.
Like, we've gone that journey. It just, the results were not what we were hoping for. So as a trusted partner of ours, help me out. So I went to Google.
Yep.
Started searching warehouse space, inner city name, and started seeing a trend in marketing, advertisement, sponsored ads, whether it be big VC-backed 4PL companies or legacy type truck leasing companies like a Ryder or something like that. They tended to be ranking at the top.
Yep.
It wasn't a good solution. Trust me, I called them, asked them, hey, am I missing something? Right? Do you have warehouse spaces? Like, do you own warehouse space from a 4PL environment?
Right.
And it just took me a long time, longer than it would booking an Airbnb in another country.
Right.
I can do the same journey and get the results much faster. I just felt like there was a need for some sort of digital marketplace, a digital platform that offered visibility into, it was just better than a Google search.
Yeah. No, and you obviously being in the industry for, quite a while, it's, you've talked about just being authentic and building relationships with people. And it's like, yeah, you're using your Rolodex of, people that you do know and have worked with in the past, but it's also, you're still doing that to this day. Obviously you're trying to grow your network and meet with as many people as possible so that when someone does come to their website, like there's more options and you've already kind of vetted to make sure that, just because you search warehouse and the top 5 people come up, like those people that are coming up first for that, they have a ton of money and it could be nothing to do, like what you said, with what you actually need. So no, that's
element.
As soon as I saw, you engaging on the platform, I was going to ask, you anyway. And, I can't remember. I think I said I'd message you. I can't remember how it came together, but it came together quickly. So no, I am curious just hearing more, specifically about, your company and kind of the platform itself.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it is what we say it is, right? It is a true Airbnb for warehouse space, right? We're not a broker. We're not a 4PL. We're not a warehouse management system that has warehouses tied to the network. That's not us. We spent 24 months of our journey finding 3PL warehouses. We did not go out and try to find customers. Yes, we had customers that found us organically. The first one, which was a large social media company.
Yep.
But what we were solely focused on building the empire, right? Building it and they will come, right? That old term. We knew that there was other competitors or other companies that were doing similar to what we were doing, but they were going out and finding brands and shippers and saying, hey, we've got an awesome warehouse network, come join it. But then there was nothing on the other side of that fence, right? Then they got on Google and started cold calling warehouses and tried to figure out like, what's the ecosystem like? What was the market dynamics in that area? Like who's available and what do they do?
Yep.
We felt like taking the time and effort. Look, we didn't make a lot of money, right? We didn't make very much money because we monetized quite a bit on our brands looking to enter warehouse space. And if we weren't looking for those, then we're just finding supply. But fast forward 3.5, 4 years, right? It really has played to our advantage. We've got space that no one else can find in this world, right? All because we stayed laser focused on the supply side, knowing that eventually the demand could come through. Sprinkle a little bit of data and machine learning and AI into that, and you get something really special when you start looking at what a marketplace can do in supply chain logistics.
Yeah. How are you, because you go on your website and you have to, I guess kind of talk through that too. Like if someone, sees this podcast, they're going to go to your website. They have to, it's a membership based platform.
Right now it is, and we're talking through, different channels that we can do to see if it, we have a freemium type service for our brands, but right now it's subscription based on the brand side.
Yep.
So if you're looking for a warehouse, it's a one-time, once a month subscription of $99. But that gives you access to 140 million square foot of warehouses in 5 different continents,
Right.
5 different countries.
Yeah. Quickly, right there, so you don't have to.
There's no Google search, there's no
Yeah.
phone calls and web forms, and there's some other competitors out there who do similar. But is a form that you filled out, which ultimately leads you to a conversation.
Yep.
Once again, how do you know you're having that right conversation with the data and information and visibility into that facility?
Yeah.
Not just square footage and they're in Atlanta, Georgia, all right? What kind of commodities they have? What's the racking configuration, the systems and infrastructure like? Is super important when procuring a warehouse, right? There's a lot of things that you can check off that box of what you need to determine to be a good fit, and it all can be done digitally.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that until they're in that situation, right? When they're going through the process, and it's like finding the warehouse space is hard enough,
right?
And then you're paying for it, so you want to move in obviously as quickly as possible. You want to put product up in rack, but you really can't go through that process until you have the building secured. So it's just, and then there's how many vendors you need to get a hold of, whether it's racking, whether it's automation, forklifts. And that's what I'm assuming kind of what we're seeing with all the partnerships that you guys have, which is, pretty large. There's a lot of big companies that you guys have partnered with. And I would imagine obviously that's to create as much possible value for, the people that come to your brand.
That's it. You hit it right on the head, right? Where we start evolving, if you would, right? We're an Airbnb for warehouse space right now, right?
Yep.
You process the scope of work and an opportunity, pass it through a platform that takes the data from it and matches it to the right 3PL warehouse. Well, what we saw is that scope of work for a warehouse started telling a story of what that brand needed outside of warehousing. What was the use case for that warehouse? We started seeing that we could start forecasting and imagining how this brand was designed from a distribution standpoint, whether it be raw materials coming in through Laredo, cross-bordered into our finished goods warehouse, right? We started understanding how they operated, which leads to solution value, right? I'll use this for example, 200,000 square foot Dallas, Texas, palletized coming in, 10,000 units, boxes going outbound. It screams that this facility that you're entertaining, or there is an opportunity for AMRs to process high volume parcel. When was the last time you got a parcel audit, right? And these are suggestions. These aren't hard sells from Pop.
Mm-hmm.
These are just say that, hey, look, there's criteria in this opportunity that tells me I may be able to suggest you another service provider. Robust AI, right? You just had them on your show.
Yep.
Really unique AMR, right? A different spin on things. They've got a cool backstory. They're striking large deals with international warehouses and suppliers who see value in it. But there's a Google search applied to that, right? There's a way that either you get a call from a salesperson, right, at Robust AI pitching you, or you find it organically from a marketplace, right? And that's our hope, is that we eventually can evolve into this procurement platform that, much like LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, right, taking those social media like algorithms and matching that personality and profile to other things outside of just warehousing, right? We all have a supply chain profile, if you would.
Yep.
What interests us, right? What are we going to buy at some point in time if we're getting the right information fed to us in an easy, natural environment, right? I don't like to get cold called. It happens all the time, but
no. And I never understood that until starting this company, because I was never cold called before being a sales guy, at another company. And then we start this one, and then it's you kind of understand what not to do.
Right. Right.
But I think in terms of a procurement platform, from a timing perspective, it's perfect, right? A lot of times the search happens after you already have the building and you're starting to move in, where it's like you can start this process immediately. As soon as you have the thought of adding more warehouse space, that's when you come in. So, I think from a timing perspective, it's perfect. That's when guys like us, or, you bring up Robust AI, like they're trying to have that conversation, I think way earlier than what most end users understand and what they think.
Right, rightfully so. That's a traditional sales cycle, right? Get in, give your pitch, sit back and see how it resonates with the buyer, and then come
Yeah.
back in, do your second pitch. Like that's the natural cadence. But what if we can replace the pitches with just information,
Yep.
data, visibility into a product that may or may not be what you're looking for, but we know at some point you will want to review this solution.
Yep.
Um, I mean, if time and time again, I see faces that pop up on LinkedIn that I don't initially click into, but as they start surfacing more and more, I know there's more relevant value to that relationship. So I then connect.
Yep.
If I talk about a black quarter zip or a black full zip Nike, if I say it into the world of technology, eventually I'll see it on this thing.
Yep.
And I might not buy it then, but when it goes on sale or when it's discounted or whatever it may be that triggers that buy, it's available for me to do it. I think that's the big thing is availability.
Yeah. Well, and I think just the awareness. I think a lot of people, if you're in one location, you just take a warehouse manager, whatever. If they're running a distribution center, yes, people jump around, but a lot of times if you've only been in 4 or 5 distribution centers or name X, like that's all you've seen. So like just being able to have awareness to different solutions that you can bring up, even if they're not going to do it, might guide them towards something that they never thought, and actually help their business. So, I mean, no, I think it makes a ton of sense.
So it's exciting, right? Seeing, we were at Manifest a few weeks ago, so we actually released the soft launch of the product there. And that launch was to really see how it was received in the industry.
Yep.
Right? Understanding that this is an old school legacy type industry. How was this kind of technology going to be received? When you've got big logos and brands putting the dots together and saying, I could see where I could use this, right? Starting with search in a warehouse, but ending it with, trucking assets that are tied to warehouse, key integrations I may need. It was a beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah. No. So I would imagine you had pretty positive feedback.
It was good. It was better than I anticipated.
That's awesome. That's always better when that's the case. I was listening to another, I think it was just a short clip when you were talking about, going back to when you're selling door to door and how you heard the word no a lot. And that might not have been the expectation when you first started it, but it just talking through that and how that's, kind of shifted your mindset of, or I guess maybe more so how it's helped you, with starting, your own businesses, kind of embracing the struggle.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You're embracing the struggle. You're learning from each and every failure, right? I'm a firm believer that you learn 10 times the amount from failing than you do winning.
Yep.
Winning are the ingredients of, or the results of failing, right? So to me, that the more times I failed, well, the more times that I learned to be a better person, better business professional, better business leader each and every time. Because I didn't know anything about owning a business, starting a franchise. I had no idea about operating trucks and running dispatch and doing that. I'm a non-technical founder. I don't code any.
Yep.
But I was able to communicate it in a way where I, and find people and start aligning that. And all those attributes came from me failing and falling on my face in the beginning.
Yep. What's been the biggest surprise so far over the last couple of years starting this? I guess what comes to mind first?
The power of people, finding the right people. You don't have to have 100 heads to do a 10-person job, right? I don't care what Silicon Valley or other areas say that you need to do, right? If you find 10 amazing, hardworking people that your passion and you're aligned, you can outpace 100 folks every time.
Yeah.
We're a lean, mean team, right? I see us go toe to toe with some of the biggest companies in the world. And like our agility, because we're lean, allows us to win deals. Our flexibility allows us to win deals. Our experience, because we spent time on finding the right people who understood the reasoning behind what we're doing. It wasn't just for money. If I wanted to go back into it for money, I'd just start brokering trucks again, right? So it was deeper than just generating lots of revenue and it was like creating a new standard is what we're hoping for. So
no, it's awesome. One of the cool things about this platform that we're trying to create is just being able to shout out the people that have helped you in the past, or I imagine you got to have somebody that you can lean on right now going through what you're going through with this process, whether it's, personal stuff or it's, obviously, focused on business. Did you have that kind of getting into the industry and, as of today? I mean,
of course,
talk through that.
Yeah, it's hard to do it by yourself. I mean, I'm not a solo founder. I've got a co-founder. And in the beginning, that was my main soundboard, right? Just someone you can ping ideas off of. And then also in the beginning, like friends, family, those are the people you initially convince that this is the right idea. You have to,
Yep.
right? Your family, because you're responsible for them and their well-being, and then your friends because you don't, want to look like an idiot in front of your friends, right? And they will be the first person to tell you if it's a really bad idea. So
Yep.
especially your good friends will
If
tell
they're a real friend.
you. If
Yep.
they're a real friend, they
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
So it's like initially in the beginning, it was your friends and family. That was my support, right? Making sure that I was making the right move, because this did happen during a pandemic, the most inopportune time to start a startup and do this, but it ended up playing to our advantage, right? Who knew a digital discovery tool would play well when you're completely locked down
Right.
in your office? So, but friends and family in the beginning, and then from a professional purview, like as I started growing and started needing some assistance and stuff that I didn't know, Lance Theobald from Secure Space, he was the co-founder of Secure Space, which is a digital marketplace for truck parking. Right. Once again, something super simple, but was needed, security, safety of these drivers, and stop pulling up into the Walmarts and parking there on the side of the road.
Right.
Find a good, safe spot to go. He was able to successfully exit in a very short time span. So I had always admired that journey of his, right? Because I think as a startup and as an entrepreneur, you always have these big, huge aspirations and goals. But really, what is going to make you happy, right? And don't let the growth in this rocket ship style trajectory cloud the fact that you came into it with one exit strategy: make X amount of dollars, be good with my family and friends, and get my life back and do whatever else I want to do.
Yep.
As you start making more money, raising more rounds, doing whatever you do, the things start getting bigger. Your goal starts getting bigger. Your $5 million turns into $50 million, turns into $1 billion. But all that requires effort and a bit of sanity, right? It's crazy to start your own business,
Yep.
right? So he was really pivotal in like starting it, understanding like, look, you're going to get to a point where you're going to outblow your goal, right? You're going to lose sight. Don't lose sight of why you started this thing. His thing was like, put a sticky note up on your mirror every single day. You look at it. This number, at this point in number, I'll be satisfied. I'll be happy, and stick to that number.
That's tough.
You grow.
Yeah, it's tough. I've heard of that too, and I think it's hard if you don't do that, because you all of a sudden you'll hit it and then you just keep going.
Right.
I mean, it is important to reflect at some point, but I think that's obviously probably why you've had success, is because you don't just stop. I mean, there's a difference of just looking at that and patting yourself on the back, and then just like, okay, what's the next thing?
Right. There's got to be an end game to it. We're all in it for, a result. So if that result comes, be satisfied with it.
Yep.
When you're a driven individual, it's easy, like you said, it's easy to get to that goal and move on to the next.
Yep.
Where's the satisfaction in that? Right? You just finished the marathon, celebrate. Don't just go right into another marathon.
Right.
So
yeah.
And that's something I still think to this day, is like that sticky note up on the mirror, right? And as we're growing, as we're seeing a ton of success, that hasn't changed, right? That goal is still there, and once we get there, is when I can feel satisfied.
Yeah.
So, but as getting out of the infancy stages and getting it kickstarted, Andrew Leto, over at Merge, Global Trans, a few other different startups. It was really crucial in just us identifying the real value in what we had. We started off as straight subscription. Brands, suppliers, you subscribe, really cheap price. But then we started transacting multiple millions of dollars through our platform, right? Big revenue projects that were going from brand into our warehouse network. And he opened my eyes and said, man, you're creating so much value for this warehouse group. You're putting $3-4 million worth of opportunity and just laying it in their lap,
right,
for a subscription into your marketplace. Like, that seems crazy. You're leaving so much money on the table. And I fought him on that. I was like, look, guys, we're not in it for the money. I'm in it to prove to the industry that you can digitally procure a commodity, right? Warehousing is a commodity at this point. You can procure that commodity in a digital environment. And in order to do so, I couldn't be the, shiny, expensive new object in the space. Like, I had to be cost effective. His exact words were like, well, you're not going to be around long, and you're not going to get your vision. You're not going to change the industry if you don't make money. So he was ultimately the reason why we changed to our pricing model, and we instantly saw results and no pushback from the market.
Yeah.
I think that's a fear. Is like you roll something out, you're like, oh my gosh, what's the industry going to think? Am I have to retract it? Do I need to give a discount? Those two people really stick out in my mind as being like beginning stage and just getting you kickstarted and letting you know what you need to do and what the journey is ahead of you. And then once you get midway through the journey, someone said, all right, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to be around to tell the story more, you might want to make these adjustments. And someone who's done this several times.
Obviously it made a huge impact, but just having somebody like that, and you also have to ask the questions, it can't just be, it's not, and I think a lot of people think that like, how do you get a mentor? It's not like there's maybe there is. I don't think there's a PopCapacity for mentors, but maybe that's a whole nother thing. But
there's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's crucial though, right? I'm a firm believer you want to surround yourself with people that are way smarter than you. If you're the smartest person in the room, there's a problem. You're not learning anything.
Yeah. That's what that's one reason for starting this podcast too. It's very easy for me to just listen. So no, you touched on family, and it's in your LinkedIn bio. How do you, because there's the famous, work-life balance. It's not really a thing. I mean, there's no such thing as perfect balance, but I guess how do you go about that with starting, what you're doing now? And I guess give us a little background if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, like in the beginning, you convince your family this is a good idea, right? You get them excited about the opportunity and show them that there's nothing that's going to stop this from happening, right? But as you get into it, you start seeing some failures, you start losing, you start looking at your pocketbook saying, oh my gosh, how are we going to pay the mortgage this month, right? And things start getting real. I think bringing your family and letting them involved in some of that growth, let them see that this thing is an ebb and a flow. I mean, you'll see social media posts of my kids, putting care packages together. Next Monday, I'm taking them to Modex, right? I want them to see and be involved in some of the things and understand like what robotics means in warehousing, right? If you were to ask my children right now what I do, or previously before I was, got into this and kind of got them involved into business, was Dad talks on the phone a lot.
Yeah.
Right. He's always on the computer and he's got his headphones in all the time. They didn't truly know what I did. So letting them know, like, and getting them involved in some of the day-to-day stuff, right? Some of the wins, some of the losses, which I try to shield them from a lot of those, but mostly wins. And doing little stuff like that, man, helps out a lot, because I am gone a lot. I do travel a lot. It stinks. I do not like spending nights away from my family, but they all know it's for the greater good.
Yeah. I just think bringing them along too. I mean, literally, like you're going to bring them to Modex, so I think that's awesome. I think, yeah, sharing some of the losses, obviously you're not going to you can't share everything. Right. But I think just, showing your kids too, that like, it's not all like, just because you work hard doesn't mean, everything's going to go perfect all the time. So I think it's important to definitely, my kids are young, so I can't share all of that with them. I mean, but I mean, even with my wife too, just like the understanding of like, hey, this is going to be a roller coaster ride. I mean, that is what it is. And we can't get off though.
Right. Right. You can't get off the roller coaster, but you need to know that there's an end to it.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to go through all the bumps and swerves and turves and curves, but at the end of the day, it's going to stop.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exhilarating. We're going to be scared. We're going to be laughing and happy, but it's the journey.
Yeah.
We all know what we signed up for. That's why I painted the picture in the beginning. Like, not flowers and rainbows, guys.
Yep. No, for sure. I saw one of the clips, I think you reshared it on LinkedIn, was in basically talking about mindset, and it was an Andy Frisella clip. Everyone at our company, well, actually we've added more people, but the majority of our company's done 75 hard, and we all do a lot of stuff. So we're when you come in to our company, I think it's very obvious. I think you'd be able to tell just if you're sharing those types of clips. But in that clips, he just talks about using negative energy, because yes, you have your family, you have your friends, they're going to give you positive feedback, but there's going to be people that don't. And I'm assuming you're the type of guy that it's not like you're searching for that, but you're not upset when you hear something like that because it fuels you.
That's right. Right. You turn that negative energy or whatever opinions there are about it, and you either take it and use it, right? Because there are some negative opinions out there that may be real, that
Yep.
maybe you have to do some self-reflecting and understand that, maybe you need to change, maybe you need to do something differently. But the stuff that are just out there as noise, right? We use that as fuel. I remember there was a time I had an old supervisor of mine tell me that stop thinking like an entrepreneur. You don't own this business, right? Stop thinking that way. Just do your job, make the calls, right? Hit quotas. To me, that was the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. You took the inspiration, you took the creativity, you told me to bottle all that up and put that aside and just play by the rules and stay in your lane. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like those type of interactions created and molded me of who I was. I would never tell one of our team members, don't think like an entrepreneur. If you have a better idea than me, you're fired if you don't tell me.
Right.
Right. We're all in it for this one purpose. Right. And once again, going back to the power of people, find those people, right? Find the people that aren't the order takers, that are like the innovators, the creators, right? Maybe they didn't have the capital to get in to do something on their own. Maybe they're in their family situation doesn't really make sense to do that, but they can jump into an environment and still give that and not feel like they have this person bottled up inside waiting to get out. That's it. Like I love people saying it's not going to work. I love people saying, "Oh, well, someone else is doing it like this." I will find a gap and a hole, and I'm sure people can find gaps and holes in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that belief, it's that passion. It pushes you through all that.
Yeah, no, for sure. The whole innovation thing is, we had actually, I got the book right here. Have you ever heard of this book, The Innovator's Spirit?
Ooh, no.
So Chuck Swoboda, he was the CEO down at Cree Lighting, southeastern Wisconsin, but Cree, I think they're owned by Wolfspeed. Massive company now. I mean, I know they're in the billions, but he came on and he wrote that book, and he just talked about innovation and exactly what you just said. Like, you got to have people that, no matter what level they are, whether you're operations manager talking to the CEO, like as the CEO, you got to be able to take that feedback and that idea, the same way as if you're taking it from one of your peers. So I'll share that with you after, because it actually, that book it's one of those where, like, you just read it and you don't want to blow up everything that you're doing, but it's just one of those where it's like, it's all about having the mindset that there's a better way of doing something.
That's right. That's right. I think a good leader always thinks that.
Yeah.
Right. I think a leader separates themselves by always having that open door, always having an open mind, and not being rigid to think that, okay, I created this and it's working, and then it's going to work forever.
Yeah.
Right. Everything's evolved. If you're not evolving, then you're being left behind.
No, for sure. I guess on the book topic, that kind of played out, segued nicely. But what do you have, books or podcasts that you listen to that you could recommend for other people that are trying to do similar things?
It's funny that you brought yours up. I just started one as well. Where did it go? So Scaling Up, I think this one is a pretty good one for people to read. It's more like textbook written. It gives you kind of a layout and actionables, but it's all based on the Rockefeller habits, right? And I think everybody's pretty aware of that. I'm a big podcast guy, right? And when I usually listen to podcasts, typically they're just for fun to allow me to decompress, right? Listen to a silly topic about something crazy, thinking pyramids or aliens or something, right?
Right.
And then really try to follow some of these industry ones, right? You caught my eye. You're bringing on some really interesting guests and just getting and catching their ideas of what's going on, like their perspective on what's happening. I'm not a huge book reader. I'm really trying to. And I'm being told once I get through this one, I'll be able to read any book in it.
Yeah.
But it's, ingesting any sort of data and information I can. My wife always says, like, I'm on my phone constantly. I'm not scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, right? It's reading articles from Wall Street or figuring out what's going on in the importing world, So nothing really strong, but I am trying to pick up my book game.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, no, and it is hard. I mean, with Audible, with it making it so easy to just listen to books too. For me, it's more so just like a discipline thing of like reading X amount of pages per day and just doing it.
I can improve on, that's for sure.
Yeah. What I guess kind of to round it all up, what advice would you give, someone just coming into this industry? Whether they're trying to start their own deal or they're going to be an entrepreneur. I guess what advice would you give to them?
Trust your gut. 9 times, and my dad always told me this, right? And and it's an old saying, but it's so true. Your initial instinct, your initial reasoning, your initial passion for doing it, stick with it. You're going to have those naysayers. You're going to have folks that tell you you're doing it dumb, you're not doing it right, this is a silly solution. Stick with your gut the entire time,
Yeah.
right?
No, that's awesome.
And then fail forward. Failing forward, like I said before, failures have molded me into who I am today. It's allowed me to take the really bad situations and turn them into okay situations, So fail forward and trust your gut.
Yeah.
100%.
No, that was a similar response. We had somebody else say the same thing. You said trust your spirit, but same concept.
Yep.
And the whole failing forward thing too. I think I had a mentor of mine when I first gotten into the industry, and he's basically, take 10 opportunities. If you get 9, for every 9 no's, there's 1 yes.
Yep.
Right. So like you go into a meeting and all of a sudden it's a no. You shift your mindset of like, okay, sweet. I got 7 no's, only 2 more to go. And then I get my yes. So it's just, kind of manipulating your mindset and just being more aware of things like that.
If you're doing it for the right reasons and you have people who are telling you you're doing it right, then you have some reason to be somewhat arrogant. And I say
Yep.
that in the nicest way,
Yeah.
right? But
I'm
a
with
lot
you.
of times I go into some of these meetings with some of the biggest companies in the world, and we have a bit of arrogance is the wrong word. Confidence, I guess.
Confidence. Yeah.
Right? Knowing that you need the service, you need what we've created to get to your main goal. Right? You can tell me all the different ways you've done it in the past and all the different things that you could do, but you're on a call with me today, which tells me that there's some opportunity here.
Right.
Um, so I'm interested to see what this industry does over the next several years. I think we've come a long way, but there's a ton more to go.
Yeah.
It's scratching the surface.
No, it's fun. I mean, there's a lot of you go on LinkedIn today versus even 3-4 years ago. It's completely different.
Completely different.
I mean, people are having these types of conversations all the time.
Yep.
So no, I'm looking forward to it as well.
For sure.